All right, last lesson in Unit 1. It's systems of equations, so it's an Algebra 1 standard. Nothing really new going on for stuff today, but we're going to start with a word problem, which actually is going to be a system of inequalities with this one, but we're going to solve it by graphing, so similar ideas. So we are buying Toy Story action figures here. So we have Woody action figures and Buzz Lightyear action figures. So the ones with Woody cost $3.45. The ones with Buzz cost $7.75 each. Makes sense. He's got a lot more stuff going on. And we have in our pocket we got $43.50 to spend. So we want to figure out the possible combinations of toys. Let's say we're buying them for a birthday party and we have 7 people come. We need at least 7 toys. Okay. So we can write down a few of these things here. Now I got a graph going already, so it asks us to solve it by graphing, right? Sorry, I didn't say that. So solve it by graphing. So here's our graph, right? We only need quadrant 1 because it's a real world problem that doesn't involve any negatives. So don't even bother graphing all 4 quadrants. It's better if you don't. So what we're going to do is actually figure out how we're going to solve this, right? So we have, I'm just going to make my tick marks here, right? I'm just going to go to, we'll go like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, right? And then up here we'll go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Right, so these are our x and y axes, but in our case, I'm going to call them different than x and y, which we'll see in a second. So what we want to do first is take this word problem and write a system of equations. It's actually going to be inequalities, but we're going to write a system for them. So we need to buy at least 7 toys. So that's a very easy equation to write, right? I'm going to use W is going to stand for the Woody action figures, and B is going to stand for Buzz. So we have Woody action figures, we have Buzz action figures, and that's kind of how we're going to go through it. So why don't we say, Woody is W. So we have Woody action figures and then plus Buzz action figures. I need to buy at least 7 toys. So when I add those up, I need to be greater than or equal to 7. That is my first inequality that I'm going to worry about, right? So the second one involves the money, right? So if we remember, the Woody action figures cost $3.45, Buzz is $7.75. So for every Woody, so we have 3.45 W plus 7.75 B, because that's the price of a Buzz action figure. Now that needs to be less than or equal to 43.50 because that's all the money that we had. So 43.5. And there's my system right there, right? Now, how I'm going to do this, I'm going to make W like my Y axis. So it's actually my W axis, and then this is going to be my B axis, and that's how I'm going to plot them. Now, when I need to graph, I'm going to pretend these are equal signs. We're just going to graph them as lines, and then we'll shade based on the inequality. But don't try and put these into like slope-intercept form. I know you're comfortable with y equals mx plus b, but it's not helpful at all in this question. And actually, what's going to be most helpful is these are already written in standard form, so just keep them that way, right? The easiest way to graph standard form is to find your x and y intercepts, or in this case, w and b intercepts. And we can find a b intercept if we plug in 0 for w, right? Because if the w value is 0, that just basically tells me I'm going to be somewhere on this line. So if I plug in 0 for w, I'm going to get b is going to be equal to 7, right? So when b equals 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, I have right there an x-intercept, right, or a b-intercept. Very helpful. Now, on the flip side, if I plug in 0 for b, I'll get w equals 7, and that's fine. So when I plug in b for 0, so b doesn't go left or right, b is equal to 0, I will have to be somewhere on my y-axis, right, or my w-axis. So when I plug in 0 for b, I get w equals 7. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So that's right there. And I can connect these 2 points very quickly. with a line like that, right? Now, just because it says to, it's an inequality, so we're going to have to shade, we need to be greater than or equal to that line. So essentially what I would do is I would shade everything that's greater than that line, which is going to include like positive infinity, which is like way up here. So that kind of tells me where I'm going to need to shade it, right? So that's all greater than that line, right? Everything up here. Now with this one, I'm going to do it the same way. I'm going to plug in 0 for W. And when I do that, right, this whole thing is going to be 0. So I'm going to get 7.75b as 43.5. So when I do it that way, I would divide both sides by the 7.75. And I would get b is equal to 5.6. I did this out. You can do it on a calculator for sure. Which actually I'll just show it. So if I did 43.5 divided by 7.75, right, I get 5.6. So that's what b is equal to. So when w is 0, so when w right here is 0, my b value is 5.6. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.6, like right there. And now on the flip side, if I plug in 0 for b, I'll get the y-intercept because b is 0, so I'm somewhere on here. So in this case, this whole thing will cancel out, and I'll take 43.5 and I'll divide it by 3.45. And I'll get 12.6. Right, so I'm going to get w is 12.6. So that's my y-intercept for the new line. So I got 12.6. So I got, this was 10, so we're going to have to go up 11, 12, 13. So 12.6 is like right there. And then I can connect these two lines. I'm going to have to move that over a little bit, but I can connect them just like that, right? Now with this inequality, I need it to be less than, which would include negative infinity, which is going to be down here. So if I'm going to shade it all for this one, just pick a new color. I'll pick yellow because it's not too dark. Right, I'm going to shade all of this, right? All of this stuff is going to be yellow because I need to be below that line that I just drew, right? So now, to satisfy both inequalities, it needs to be the part of the graph where both is shaded, so I have green and yellow. So it's going to be this like triangular area right in here, right? So I obviously can't be less than 0, 2. Whoops, didn't mean to erase it, meant to highlight it. So I'm going to be in this area right here, right? This is going to be where all of my answers are. So anything right where my B's and W's kind of hit in this area would be a possible combination of toys that I could buy. So like I could buy one Buzz because it's my B axis, and then 8 Woodies, or I could buy 1 and 9, 1 and 10, 1 and 11. Because they're inequalities, I could buy 12 Woodies and then no Buzzes, because I think if I go over 1, I'm out of that region. So anything that's in here is a possible combination of toys that I could buy.